Good morning and welcome to UUCC. I'm Stephanie Graffel, your lay leader, and I'm thrilled to see everyone here, whether in the sanctuary or joining us on Zoom or YouTube. If you're in the sanctuary, be aware that this service is recorded for YouTube. Tables at the back are available if you prefer to avoid appearing on camera. Please refrain from talking during the recording to avoid unintentional broadcasting, and quiet or turn off anything that might disturb us. Visitors can explore literature about our UU faith in the entrance and in the community room. You can also join us for social time after the service in person and on Zoom. Discover more about our faith community, programs for children and youth, and weekly opportunities to connect with us on our website, uucommunitychurch.org. Situated on Shaver Road in Portage, Michigan, our church is on ancestral lands of the Peoria and Potawatomi people, and we proudly display a rainbow flag and Black Lives Matter sign, symbolizing our inclusive community dedicated to creating a just and sustainable world. We are a community on diverse spiritual journeys, and we enjoy hearing different points of view from our minister, Reverend G. Ludwig McCartney, guest ministers, lay leaders, and guest speakers. Today, we are most pleased to welcome a local gal, Jenny Snyder. The tagline for Jenny that I chose this morning is, "There are so many ways to get involved. For me, a decade of doing has been the antidote to feeling overwhelmed and powerless." Thank you, Jenny, for being with us today. Thanks to everyone for contributing to this morning's service, our greeters, our tech team, coffee hosts, and each of you. Your presence and contributions are truly appreciated. We have three announcements. Our justice partners at the Michigan Unitarian Universalist Social Justice Network invite all Michigan UUs to join them for Calling and Connection, a short Zoom gathering on Wednesday, February 25th from 7 to 7:45 p.m. This will be an opportunity to build supportive relationships across our congregations. Together, we'll share information and practical strategies and take action together by making phone calls to elected officials. This month's advocacy and action focus is immigrant detention facilities in Michigan. Registration information for this gathering is available on our website. Please join us and put your values into action. Next Saturday, February 28th, UUCC will be one of several drop-off sites for the NAACP's annual Black History Month Community Baby Shower Drive. Plan to stop by UUCC from 9 to 11 to drop off your donations. We will be serving coffee and donuts, and members of the Kalamazoo Metropolitan Branch of the NAACP will be with us to chat and answer any questions you might have. The Baby Shower Drive hopes to collect gender-neutral baby items such as rattles, teethers, pacifiers, diaper bags, sleep sacks, and onesies. All donations will be given to Cradle Kalamazoo in support of their mission to eradicate maternal and infant mortality in our community. Visit the UUCC website for a complete list of requested items. And last but not least, please come to our Beat the Winter Blues fundraiser on Saturday, February 28th. We'll have spicy chili, a cornbread bake-off, joyful community, and live music from the amazing Megan Dooley. What more could anyone want? Tickets are $20 at the door. Beer and wine are $5, and kids attend for free. All the proceeds go to support the programs and ministries of this faith community. Come, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, and chase away the winter chill at UUCC. Today, globally, excuse me, Unitarian Universalists continue to light the chalice. As truth seekers, we pursue a resilient truth that withstands questioning and doubts. The flame serves as a constant reminder of our shared values, bringing them to life in our community. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Well, I missed something. Justin's going to come up and give us some short words on the 8th principle. Thank you, Justin.
Good morning. Unitarian Universalism calls us to affirm the inherent worth of every person and to act when that worth is denied. That is why this congregation proclaims that Black Lives Matter in both our beliefs and in our public witness. By adopting the 8th UU principle in 2022, we made a clear commitment to dismantling white supremacy, culture, and racism in ourselves and our institutions. This work is ongoing, imperfect, and necessary, especially at this moment in our nation's history. In honor of Black History Month, we are taking time to review and renew our shared commitment to truth-telling, learning, and racial justice with an 8th principle moment. White supremacy culture is the embedded, institutional, and pervasive nature of racism, white privilege, racial bias, and oppression in our society. White supremacy is upheld by systems in education, policing, housing, healthcare, immigration, and more. This is not an opinion. It is a scientifically tractable phenomenon. To challenge these systems, Unitarian Universalists are called to show up and bear witness, to follow the leadership of people of color, to act in solidarity, and to use our privilege to advocate for change. As Cornel West reminds us, justice is what love looks like in public. The love at the center of our faith is not passive. It calls us to take courageous, committed, faithful action today, tomorrow, and every day to build the beloved community that Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed of, a society based on justice, equal opportunity, and love for all of humanity. If you want to explore this more, we have some anti-racist resources on a table in the back. There are books on display in our lending library that you can borrow. And there's a sign-up sheet for those who are interested in exploring anti-racism more deeply with UUCC friends. And to quote the late civil and LGBTQ rights activist, Reverend Jesse Jackson, you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't lead where you don't go. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Our opening reading today is by Reverend Tanya Marquez. She serves the Pacific West region as a congregational life consultant. She's in the San Diego area and has lived in the border region for most of her life on both the United States and Mexican sides. It is now, when we are called as witnesses of the world, to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values. Not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship.
Hello, you family. I'm going to sing a song with you called Shine on Me. It's an amazing spiritual that anybody can sing. And in these days when the things that we're dealing with, the feeling separate and all of that, and things seem so hard, this is one of those songs that you just throw your head back, put it in your medicine kit. All you have to do is ask. And here's how it goes. Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up, yes, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, hold me close, yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close, yes, hold me close, oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please, hold me close. Oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh, shine on me, yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on
Shine on me indeed. Now we have a chance to let Jenny shine on us with her message titled Good Trouble. Jenny, I'll give you an introduction. This could take all day, but this is the short version. After the 26th election, Jenny woke up to the reality that activism was no longer optional. Her decision to talk less, do more, has led to wide-ranging projects. Currently, she organizes peacekeepers and other volunteers for Indivisible's No Kings protests and other actions. She grabs motorists' attention with Kalamazoo Visibility Brigade bridge messages, such as what you see on the screen. She is also active knocking on doors for candidates, serves as a precinct delegate. She's been active in the League of Women Voters. And in 2022, Jenny and her husband, Bo, led a team of voters, not politicians, volunteers to help expand voting rights in the Michigan Constitution. Again, I'm quoting our speaker here. There are so many ways to get involved. For me, a decade of doing has been the antidote to feeling overwhelmed and powerless. Jenny, we welcome you to our pulpit.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today. Miriam asked me to come and talk about good trouble and the importance of activism and the importance of resistance and the importance of speaking truth to power. And I thought about that a bit, and there's a lot of different ways you could go with that. And I'm not an expert, so I thought what would make most sense and might be most helpful is if I just speak about my own journey in activism and what that's meant to me. And then I can speak a little bit about how we can collectively take action to make change. So as Stephanie said in her introduction, the election in 2016 for me and millions of other people, I'm sure, was a wake-up call. Before that, I had voted and I'd given a little bit of money here and there, but beyond that, I was on the sidelines. I just wasn't even aware really of all that was going on. And then, that day after the election, I woke up and figured I needed to do some more things. And a lot of people figured that. And so I looked around at local organizations, and the logical place for me to land first was the Kalamazoo County Democratic Party. And I, went to a couple meetings, and then I went to a couple more meetings, and then I volunteered for the very first thing for the very first time, and that was to call people to bring lasagna to a potluck. And I'm sure I called the Krolls, and I'm sure they brought several lasagnas, and it was magical to me because instantly, as Stephanie said in her introduction, that was the antidote for me. It was a small thing, but it was something I could do. And since that point, I've been involved in a lot of different organizations, a lot of different projects, and but it all goes back to those lasagna phone calls and realizing that for me, I needed to jump in. So I read a quote recently that kind of sums all of that up. And that quote is, "Action absorbs anxiety." And I really believe that from the bottom of my heart. That has been true for me. So in the 10 years since, I've had a lot of things, I've learned a lot of things about the kinds of activism that have meaning for me. And I thought I'd just tell you about a couple of those things that I've realized in case they are helpful for you. I realized that for me, venting and listening to other people express outrage makes me crazy, because if you're talking, you're not necessarily doing as much. So for me, I learned slowly that activism for me was not talking about it. It was not going to meetings just to go to meetings. It was not posting on social media. It was not, reading a million e-newsletters and listening to podcasts. I try to read enough about what's going on locally and nationally so that I kind of know, I like to know what's going on, but I don't need to spend all my time doing that. So that's just, for me personally, the venting makes me crazy because I feel like it's mostly we're talking to each other. It's just group therapy, and it doesn't really accomplish much. A second thing I learned is that I started to realize that I need to pick projects instead of pick organizations. So it didn't work for me to necessarily join one group and then stick with that group for year upon year and just kind of work on whatever projects that get cooked up. It worked for me better to find specific projects to work on in a variety of organizations. And I'll talk about some of those in a bit. And they're all good organizations. We have so many good organizations in this town. And, certainly I'll circle back in when a project comes up that I feel like, that's what I want to work on next. I learned that the most satisfying projects for me are those that are really well defined. They have a clear goal, they have a clear beginning and an ending, and they have results that are more or less measurable. So how many signatures, how many doors did you knock, how many protesters, how many postcards, how many phone calls, those kinds of things. Those, that measurable impact, even if it's imperfect, is what has been most important to me in a project. And I learned that in most cases, the measurable result that I care most about relates to voting, because that's how we're set up to make change in our country. It's not the only way we make change in our country, but it is, I think, the most important way we make change in our country. So projects that have an impact on either voter turnout, how many people are voting, or, impact how many people are going to be voting for the candidate or cause that I care about. And I've also learned, just one more, I've learned that bringing people in off the sidelines is just the best feeling in the world, because I want to share the antidote to feeling powerless and hopeless with people. And I'll just tell a quick story. A guy who is now my friend, but I met him for the first time when I was collecting signatures at the farmer's market for Proposal 2. And he came up and asked what I was doing, and I explained, and he sounded like he might be interested. And sure enough, he got in touch 2 days later, and yes, he was interested. So I got him a clipboard and I got him some signature sheets, and he became one of the top signature gatherers in the state for that proposal. Yeah, it was really cool to see, and to see him kind of, realize the impact that he can make was very, very satisfying for me. So I will tell you about a few projects that I'm particularly proud of, because I think they maybe illustrate my earlier points. So one is that Proposal 2 in 2022, Promote the Vote, we called it. My husband and I, Bo, worked to coordinate a team of volunteers from Kalamazoo County, throughout the county. And that was the proposal that put an amendment on the ballot, an amendment to the state constitution that expanded and protected voting rights. And it passed. And the team that we put together, lots of people who had never done this before. We spent a lot of time going out with people and, helping them feel comfortable their first time or two out. And we had other people who did that too. And our team, as a result of having such a broad base of volunteers, we were able to punch way above our weight in population, our county compared to other counties in Michigan, in the number of signatures collected. So we collected 12,946 signatures, which is a lot of sheets of signatures. So I'm proud of that. And then this one has been interesting for me to think about. Every cycle we knock on doors for candidates we care about. I dread it every time. I don't want to do it because, these guys get it. These guys get it. But I do go, and then after you go, you knock on a couple doors, you realize that it's not so bad, and then you'll have like one good conversation with somebody, and that kind of lights a fire, and you've got enough energy then to kind of finish out your turf for the afternoon. And but what's interesting to me is that the races or the door knocking that has had most meaning for me is when we drove into other communities to knock doors in really, really close races. So in 2022, we drove up to Grand Rapids for a state Senate candidate. And in 2024, we drove several times to Battle Creek and knocked for the state House candidate there. And both times they lost. They lost both times. The Grand Rapids candidate, we went up there, knocked all over that district several times, and he lost by 405 votes. Yeah. And the one in Battle Creek in 2024 lost by 79 votes. So really close races, but we don't feel like that time and that gas was wasted because those races had the largest potential upside. You know, we feel like that work that we did was a great investment of time, and we would do that again. Then maybe we narrowed the results a little bit. So. Postcards, much less, much easier, lower impact than knocking on doors. And every cycle, I write postcards with an organization called Postcards to Swing States. They have thousands of volunteers across the country, you know, and they do the analytical work to figure out, you know, the really close races in the swing states. They find the voters in those districts that are progressive voters, but they tend to have low turnout. So trying to get them out to the polls. And so they send me every cycle, they send me 200 postcards, and they send me the names and addresses of these voters. And they send me some message options to use. They do research to find out what messages are most effective in increasing turnout. And then I, write them out on my dining room table, and I go and buy stamps and put them on, and I mail them on a specific date they tell me to mail them. That's going to arrive at the most strategic time to encourage voting. And so they tell me that my votes will generate between 2 and 3 votes. Or my postcards will generate between 2 and 3 votes. So, that doesn't sound like a lot of votes for that writer's cramp, but these are really close races in just a few states, and there are thousands of volunteers across the country writing those postcards. So that accumulation of votes can have a difference in those races. So I feel good about that work too. And then Stephanie mentioned Indivisible Greater Kalamazoo. And I'll do a little plug right now for the next No Kings, March 28th, Saturday, March 28th, noon to 2 on Drake Road again. We've had that recipe for a couple protests already, and it seems to work, so we're not changing it, at least this time around. And Indivisible is a cool organization. It's there's not a ton of structure to it. It's a lot of people doing a lot of different projects, and they're all good projects. But I have chosen to focus on protest, on what I can do to encourage peaceful protest. And so, because I think visible protest brings people off the sidelines, it grows our coalition, it builds momentum, and ultimately, I hope, impacts some voting, and also maybe changes some behavior of some folks, but I'll talk about that in a second. So my role for those protests is I work with the volunteers who keep those protests peaceful and safe. So I work with the peacekeepers and the medics and the crossing guards specifically, and a few other groups. And we have all these volunteers who've never done this before. A week and a half ago, we did a training for de-escalation training for people who were considering becoming peacekeepers at the protest. And we had 30 people show up for that. None of them had ever done anything like this before. And, most of them have committed to volunteering on March 28th. So, and that's amazing to me. We live in a really great community. So we'll have probably 80 people in those 3 main roles at the protest on March 28th. So Our community has made that possible. And then I show up at the littler protests. Indivisible has a weekly protest every Friday, noon to 1 o'clock on Lovers Lane. And we on March 20th, it'll have been 1 year of showing up every single Friday. We have not missed a Friday. And even when it was really cold, we were out there. There were, maybe 10 or 15, 20 people, those weeks when the weather was not pleasant. But people showed up, and the number of people is not what's important. The showing up is what's important, so that, we're sending the message to anybody who drives by. This resistance is not going away. We are here. We're not going away. And, you, person in the car, you can join us. And that has happened several times. People have, pulled over, find out what we're doing, got on our list to contact, and have joined us subsequently. So, and then the Kalamazoo Visibility Brigade, another little plug. I have nothing to do with organizing that. I just show up and wave, and it's so fun. That's the like you see on the monitor there on the screen, the giant letters on overpasses. We are primarily on the Westnedge overpass by Charter Paramount Academy, and then sometimes we do it over the I-94 overpass on Lovers Lane. And the dates, and times vary for those. But I've got some information later if you want to get on the notification list for that. And they are so fun. And we have really good music. So that's the best part. So kind of in a nutshell, that's a few things about, my journey making good trouble. From jumping in after the 2016 election to figuring out what kind of projects have most meaning for me, and then to the point of bringing more people in off the sidelines it's been fabulous. But so I'll talk just a little bit about activism in the greater sense. So, how does activism speak truth to power in our country? I think right now more and more people are figuring out we do have the power. Our politicians aren't necessarily getting it done at the moment. And two ways that we can exercise that power collectively are peaceful protest, and also by resisting economic resistance. And both of those, I believe, can be very effective. So on the protest side, you've probably heard of the 3.5% rule. Erica Chenoweth is a researcher, professor at Harvard, political science, and she did a study over a 100-year period. She studied 300 protests, both peaceful and violent protests, all over the world, and she found that violent protests were successful only 26% of the time. Peaceful protests were successful 56% of the time. So, unfortunately, not every time. But when the peaceful protests engaged 3.5% of that country's population, they were successful almost all the time. So, in this country, 3.5% of our population is 12 million people. So that would be the goal, is to get that many people out. And the last mass national protest we had, I think, about 8 million people across the country. It's an estimate, has to be an estimate, but that's what's estimated. So it's imperative that our big protests, our big No Kings and those and hands off and those protests keep growing. And to do that, we need to keep them peaceful, because if it's a peaceful experience, it draws a broad cross-section, diverse cross-section of society. It makes you feel good about attending, and you can bring your kids. That's why the peaceful part of peaceful protest is so important. But another thing we can participate in, we all can do a little bit toward, and it's, less, I don't know, in some ways it's easier. We can all participate in economic resistance. So, in our society, in any capitalistic society, consumer behavior and pulling back a little bit on spending can have quite an impact. And it's just a little bit. If we just draw back strategically certain products, certain companies, a little bit, we can make some change. So some examples. Sometimes it doesn't take long at all. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it doesn't take long at all. So last fall, when Disney Plus suspended the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and 10% of its subscribers unsubscribed. And you know what? Disney Plus noticed, and they reinstated, I'm sorry, that show in a week. Another example that took longer is the Avelo airline boycott. So it became known that Avelo Air had contracts with ICE, and they were flying ICE detainees around the country, airports all over the country. And a nationwide boycott was organized, and protesters protested at all those airports around the country, including Grand Rapids. It took 9 months. But Avelo no longer has a contract with ICE. So, and an even longer effort was the Montgomery bus boycott. So I read a little bit about it. I didn't realize, I mean, of course I knew about Rosa Parks being arrested because she wouldn't move to the back of the bus, but I didn't realize it took nearly all of 1956 of people organizing carpools so that people could still get to work and to school without taking the bus, and organizing protests and boycotting the bus. And it took 281 days for that to take effect. But finally, at the end of that, the city of Montgomery integrated its public transport system. So sometimes it takes a while. But one economic resistance project in the news now is called, you may have heard about this, it's kind of gotten a lot of play lately. It's called Resist and Unsubscribe. There's a website, Resist and Unsubscribe. It's and spelled out, A-N-D, resistandunsubscribe.com. And it's divided into 2 sections. One section lists companies that have contracts with ICE. So you may want to take a look at those, and you may want to maybe spend a little less with some of those. At our house, we notice that both FedEx and UPS have contracts with ICE to deliver packages. Did not know that. Now I do. And so now we use the post office when we can to send small packages. And there's a lot of companies that have ICE contracts. I think you would be surprised to check that out. And then the other section of the company, or other section of the website, it lists the big tech companies like Meta and Amazon and Apple and Google, and I think there are, 8 or 10 of them. And it has links to all their specific services, subscription services that those companies offer. And those links don't just go to their homepage. In most circumstances, they go directly to the page on the website where you can unsubscribe, because it's not often easy to find those pages. They make it very difficult to unsubscribe. So that this website is a really, I think it's a really useful thing to take a look at. And the reason that tech is targeted so much by that site is that tech companies are very, very vulnerable to consumer spending. If we pull back a little bit, even just a little bit, on a subscription or two, we really can have an impact because of the way that they're structured and how the market is right now. So tech products, tech companies represent most of the big growth in the stock market right now. Everybody's betting on AI and investing in AI. But if their earnings drop because people unsubscribe, even if those earnings drop just a little bit, the value of their company drops. And you better believe that gets their attention. So talking about the building on the reference to Disney Plus and Jimmy Kimmel earlier, 10% of the subscribers I mentioned canceled in a week. That was 3 million people. 3 million people canceled in a week. Their stock fell by 2%, which doesn't sound like a ton, right? But that was a loss of $4 billion with a B dollars in the value of their company. And so they noticed, and they didn't want that to be happening week upon week upon week, and they reversed their decision. So, if enough of us just pull back a little bit, so, nobody can exist in this world without having some of these subscriptions. I could not, we all use them, or almost everybody uses them. And nobody's asking for, a purity pledge here to get rid of everything. But if we can each just look at our subscriptions and maybe eliminate some that maybe you don't use as much, or you can figure out a good alternative for, it would help. At our house, we eliminated Amazon Prime, and we unsubscribed to Netflix. So, but I am not giving up my Apple Music. I'm not going to do it. So, and we still order from Amazon sometimes because, it's hard to find things other places in some cases, but we don't order nearly as often as we used to, and we don't order as much stuff as often as we used to. So yeah, so for me right now, activism is peaceful protests. It's supporting candidates who I believe will work toward the change I want to see in the world. It's doing what I can to resist economically. It's spreading the word, like here today, but I think I'm probably preaching to the choir here a little bit, and bringing new people in. So that's what I have to tell you today. I do hope all of you will find things that are important to you and to find things to do that have meaning for you. Once again, this is a very, 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 very important election. We all need to do what we can. And that's what I have. I guess I probably didn't need to tell you that, but I believe so fervently that if we all jump in a little more than we are jumping right now, that will be a good thing, and it'll make all of us feel better too. So I have some handouts for later, for afterwards, and I think we're going to have some questions. And I thank you very, very much for having me here today.
Thank you, Jenny. My usual Parchment to Portage route is on Lover's Lane, and I just love seeing the people there. I haven't pulled over, but I always honk and wave. Okay. So for the offering, our lives are filled with many blessings. Let's come together with gratitude and love to share a part of these gifts to support our faith community. You can show your love by giving in a practical way to keep our space vibrant and share our positive message. There are ways to give on the screen, and our ushers are here to collect your offerings. Together, we make a meaningful impact through our shared generosity. Thank you.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now
Extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Closing words. Do not fear agitation. Again, by the Reverend Tanya Marquez, who has lived most of her life on both the United States and the Mexican sides. Do not fear agitation, for agitation is the rhythm of life itself, to be put into motion, to be stirred. Do not fear the movements that decenter what you always thought permanent. You carry within the center of your understanding the compass to show you the way. Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love. Thank you.
Fascists in the White House caught us by surprise, but people in this country